Yet when Fuller turned to the subject of sexual degradation in women in the 19th century, a subject she had skirted in the Great Lawsuit, it was not merely to vent her rage. Rather, she meant to elaborate the reflections on morality that her recent experiences had prompted. For the idea of chastity as a mere socially constructed perception, she cited, was not satira, but the other norms of other cultures. The polygamous band of the Orient, the tribal chief of the American Plains, Fuller observes, quote, did not wrong according to his own light by becoming polygamous. His women were not lost, not polluted in their own eyes, nor those of others. These examples, however, did not lead Fuller to adopt the idea of chastity as mere perception and no more. To the contrary, Fuller was happy to remind her readers that in nations that, quote, own the Christian rule, there is a standard to appeal to. The problem for Fuller now was how that standard was to be honored. A bit surprisingly, her most pointed advice was not directed in women of the 19th century to the men whose lusts had spawned a culture of sexual exploitation. She left the men to teach and warn each other. Instead, Fuller appealed to women, not to the prostitutes themselves, but to the creatures of society in easier circumstances, who had corrupted the lower orders by their subtly meretricious examples. In a devastating juxtaposition, Fuller set a description of a fashionable ladies' resort alongside a recollection of her recent visit to Ossining. At the former place, she had seen women dressed, quote, without regard to the season or the demands of the place, unquote, in mindless imitation of what was taken to be European fashion. In this parade of folly, jealousy, and vanity, Fuller thought she had witnessed a kind of crime that was not written down in any statute book, a crime that was made all the worse because it was perpetrated by, quote, American ladies of that class who have wealth and leisure to make full use of the day and confer benefits on others, unquote. It was women like these whom Emerson had accused of living too much for exhibition, deriving their will only from the false confidence created by their easy circumstances. Fuller did not care whether such women had no lovers other than their husbands, call them whatever else you might, they were not chaste. As Woman in the 19th Century makes obvious, when Fuller had asked whether the women of Mount Pleasant regarded the reputation for chastity, quote, merely as a circumstance of condition, like the possession of fine clothes, unquote, she had more in mind than the idea that chastity was a virtue that only the economically comfortable could afford. She was thinking as well about the ladies of the voguish resort, who, in their tasteless sensuousness and love of lowly pleasures, had not a grain more of chastity than Georgiana Bruce's charges. For these women, as much as for the inmates of Ossining, chastity was no more than a name and a reputation. Nothing about their lives or demeanors had given it 1 ounce of substance. In the failure of the comfortable classes to better use their privileges, Fuller saw the origins of a greater evil. The motives that had started the Ossining inmates toward the road to prison were simply imitative. Like the women of the resort, whose manners were a vulgar burlesque of European fashion, the women of Mount Pleasant had begun by wanting what an unreliable model had held up to them as valuable. They too had been betrayed by, quote, love of dress, love of flattery, love of excitement, quote. Lacking the dresses of the other ladies, they had stolen them. Avid for cheap and transitory pleasures, they had bartered their bodies to get them. It was entirely evident to Fuller that the women of the fashionable house were answerable for the women in prison.